welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia and this is the Applecast podcast. So today I might be a little bit disjointed. I've got a friend that's in surgery and he's having pretty major surgery. So that's on my mind, but I also don't have a whole lot of time to podcast either. So figured I'd try to fit this in anyway. So we'll see how that goes. I may have to do some editing in case I get some phone calls or something like that, just to let you know. So I noticed that there's a whole lot of new subscribers, so hello if you're watching, and welcome back to anyone who has been here before. So today's episode is going to have a lot of finishes. The last two uploads that I've put up were vlogs, and because I was in my new space, and I'm still working on my new space, but I would say I'm a third of the way where I want to be in this room. So we're getting there. Still have some shelving to put up. I'd like to get a chair or something with some lights, some tapestries I like to put up, but we'll get there. So yeah, I've got a whole lot of finishes to show, and have some podcasts that I've been watching that I'd like to talk about, but I'll put that near the end. What else? I have an acquisition that'll be at the end, and it's one whip. I guess really, no, I have two whips. Although one of them you can probably see from here. I started working on some kitties. I should include this in the finishes, but they're not really because they're things that are for my shop. But I saw this pattern called a kitty poof or something like that, and it's not that pattern. I kind of just, you knit it in a tube and then cinch both sides basically. So I just kind of took it, went my own, and found something that worked for me. So I made a bunch of these in caramel and light tan with different faces on it, and basically what I figured out worked for me, instead of cinching it at the bottom, I just made it like a sock toe up, and instead of doing increases on the sides, I just kept it going until it was a square. So that's what I've been working on, and I'm still trying to figure out the ears, because everyone that I've showed these kitty pillows to, everyone's like, oh, the ears need to be more prominent. I'm not really sure how to do that, so I'm kind of playing around with that, trying to figure that out. And they're filled with polyfill. I wanted to go with something more sustainable like cotton, but then I was thinking, if someone wants to wash it, how's the cotton going to work on the inside? And then what if it's not dry all the way? Then it's going to get moldy, and then you're going to have problems. So I'm like, you know what? There's probably a reason why people keep going to polyfill. So it's filled with polyfill. Ah. Don't fall. Okay. So, my last official video, I was showing socks that were stripes, and I think it was Unique Yarns, and it didn't have a colorway name. It was all numbers. So I finished those. They're shorties-ish. So what I did, because there's 4 color sections, I think. So I just played around with it and did something different with the stripes. So I started out with this section of stripes and then swapped them so that, you know, so they're a pair. You could tell that they're a pair, but they're not the same, which I think is cute. But I like wacky socks, so there you go. And I did a short row heel, and I think the heels actually came out pretty well, considering I wasn't planning anything. So you still have like that little section here that's all color. And in the front of that, what it did do, making the short row heel, because what you do is you start outside in and then inside out doing the heel, and you're going around. So it makes this thin stripe in the front as you're going around closing your short rows. stitches and then starting over again, going the other way, doing inside out. I know I'm doing a terrible job explaining that. But if you've done a short reel heel, you know what I'm talking about. So there's a thin stripe for that. So finished that, and I believe this yarn was, I know it's a merino and nylon blend, but I don't remember the count. It might be 75-25. Not entirely sure. That's done. I knit these on a US 2. I think that's a 2.5 millimeter, if I'm not mistaken. On my Chiagus, everything's on the Chiagu. It's a good it's a good all-purpose, I should say, needle for everything that I do. And I'm also a tight knitter, so I have to go up. So usually people will knit their socks on 1s or 0s, and I have to go up to a 2. So yeah, I have not tried these on. Well, I tried them on, but I haven't like worn them. And I'm probably not going to, because I have plenty of socks that have a lot of wear in them, and I don't want to keep wearing all the new socks. I want to keep some in reserve, if that makes sense. So these are going to go in my box. I've got 2 boxes on the side over there. One day I'll show them when I do a tour, whenever the heck that happens. And I'll show off my box of socks. I'm going to put this to the side. Okay, I've got a couple of squares. These squares were done, 2 months ago. They just never, I had a blocking party yesterday and the day before. I was just blocking everything because with the process of moving, I didn't have time to block anything. So I have 2 squares. They're both the same. So this is, actually, let me show you the other one because it's the same color. This is, I'm making a bunch of blocks for Nora's Vintage Afghan. It's a free pattern by Nora Gone, and it's basically just a bunch of, it's a sampler, so it's a bunch of cabled squares, and then you just sew it together. And I'm just over halfway through. So this is number 7 of the pattern, and it's got like a rope cable and then like this braided cable, and it goes back to rope and then braided, rope and braided. And these 2 are done on alpaca. I'm kind of playing around with whether or not I want to make extra squares and then try to keep the yarn weights similar, only because with the alpaca is really light, and then I've got this merino that I've made into squares, and it's heavy. And yeah, I could play around with weight distribution, and I may end up having to do that anyway, depending on how tired I get of making squares. But I'm wondering if I should try to stick with as many of the same weights as possible, if I can. And that's probably what I'll end up doing, because this is a long-term project. So I'm knitting all of these squares on a US 7. I think that's a 4 millimeter, because I know an 8 is a 5 millimeter, so that might be a 4. What else? I do have to play around with numbers because I'm not using the recommended yarn. So usually what I have to do is I will knit usually like up until like the pattern starts, which is a pain in the butt. So that's why I have to write everything down on pattern to make sure I know. So if I make that square again, I already have the math done, because I need it to measure 14 inches up and down, which is easy to do as you're knitting up, but it has to be 14 inches across. So, and actually if I stretch it, it's probably more like 15, but when it gets sewn together, it'll be 14, and that's how I'm blocking it, is at 14 inches. So, yeah, usually I'll figure out from here how many more stitches I need to do. So I'll kind of guess, and then if it looks like it's going to work out, fine. Otherwise, I may have to add or rip out stitches. So it's a little bit annoying, which is why this project's probably taking me longer than it should. but I'm hard-headed like that, so it's not really a surprise that it's taken me this long. What else can I say about it? There's really not much else to say. A lot of these cable squares have interesting cables I've never done before. So I like that idea because it's a good way to learn new cable stitches without a lot of commitment. And then of course you can always use those stitches and those charts for anything that you want, as long as you want to do the math. So all around, it's really good value, I think. Well, this is my first cup of coffee. It's been a rough morning. Random. I'm looking at my computer screen and Instagram is up. And if you like Ambah O'Brien's pattern, she's doing a sale a day, 50% off. You might want to go check that out. Speaking of Ambah O'Brien, I have an Ambah O'Brien pattern right here that I just finished. And actually, I think this was day 7. This is the Lilli Pilli. And this is it's a good length. I think I got like 65 inches here, which is just what I like. So this is the wrap. She also has a shawl version, which I think she might have had out the same day or maybe the day before. Either way, you can't get it for 50% now. But if you save it, she does this literally every year. So if you really, really wanted it for 50% off, you can just save it. And then when she does her sale again next year, go ahead and get it, because she usually pulls that up. So this is my version, and I think I have this right. Yes, I do. Okay. So I started off with Knit Picks Eggplant. That's the dark purple and the stripes. And then the light variegated purple is Redhead Fibers, and she hasn't dyed yarn in like 5 years. So yeah, I just did that for the contrasting stripes. You do a number of rows, then you go into the lace pattern. This is an undyed with Stellina, which I don't know if you didn't see it, so I'll try to get up close. See if you can get any of that shine. You may or may not be able to get the Stellina in there. Anyway, so I did the lace for, I don't know how many repeats it was, 9 or something like that. And then go back into the stripes. I cut this really short because it was supposed to be like an astronomical number of stripes. And I was like, nah, that ain't happening. And it's long enough. So I'm glad I did that because this is the perfect size. So you just go back to doing the garter stripes again. I don't think I mentioned the color for the Knit Picks Eggplant. That was the dark purple. And then you just finish off with lace. So I think this was like 3 repeats, 4 repeats of lace. So I'll put that on for you. So this is how I like to wear my wraps. Now I do sometimes wear them as a scarf, but there's just something very comforting about just wrapping up in an actual wrap, you know. And it's so soft and cuddly. I like it. She has quite a few wraps. She has, well, I mean, all she does, well, no, I can't say all she does is shawls, but she does have a very high number of shawl patterns. And actually, what I like about her patterns is she has everything written out, and then she also has it charted. So way back when I was a baby knitter and I was learning how to knit shawls, I immediately gravitated toward Ambah O'Brien just because I like the patterns. And that's actually how I learned how to read charts. So I'm very thankful for her that she writes out her patterns that way, because I was very much afraid of charts in the beginning. And so like, I think one day I was feeling adventurous and I just kind of went line by line and I was like, okay, what does this look like written out in the lace? What is that equal to in the chart? And just from doing that, you know, I think it only took me 1 pattern, maybe 2, before I figured out how to read charts, and now I just go straight for the charts, which is actually really helpful, because once you learn how to read charts, generally speaking, it doesn't really matter what language your pattern is in if it's all charted. So I'm glad that I taught myself to do that. And because like I've got some mitten patterns, I haven't worked them yet, but you just have to know the numbers. So once you get the cast on number, you just look at the chart and that's it. Same thing with lace. Once you get a cast on number, you just look at the chart. And actually, you don't even really need a cast on number because you just look at the repeats and go, okay, well, how many do I want to do across the board? Boom. So, yeah, very helpful. So if you wanted to learn how to read charts, I highly recommend Ambah O'Brien for that, because the way she has her patterns written out, they're always clear. And she always has everything written out and the chart there. So it's good for reference. So, yeah. So this is done. What else do I want to say about this? I believe I knit this on, it's either a 5 or a 6. I almost never knit fingering weight shawls on anything more than a 5 or a 6. Like, it just doesn't happen because I like the fabric. I love the fabric that I get with a 5 or a 6. So, yeah. Alrighty. And I do not have a good way to fold and store my shawls. If you have a good way that you do that, that works for you, leave a comment below. Normally what I'll do, this is not how I don't do it this way. I'm just putting this away for now. But what I normally do is roll them up so I don't get a crease, but you're still getting a fold, that fold line. But not always. So like, I think maybe if I just did everything rolled up and like a croissant and not folded and then rolled up, I can avoid that line. I should probably do that. I'll do that this year, because one of my upcoming videos is going to be about shawls. So I'm going to check my phone real quick and see if I have any updates. Okay, so far so good. Oops, I grabbed 2 things. We're almost done. Almost. This one has cat hair all over it. I am not amused. Okay, this one is grab my note, Numirlintu by Heidi Alander. And this is a free pattern. And this was with that gorgeous red that I've showed off more times than I can count. And I finally did something with it. So, I actually have this backwards. So you start off here on this end. And then and then I put the lace and then garter section and then lace and garter section and lace. And I'll get closer to the screen to show you the lace. So this pattern I knit with, the yarn is DK. And I don't remember if the original yarn for the pattern is DK. Might be fingering. But I got, boy, this far into the garter. And I'm like reading through the pattern and it says that you could throw in garter and the lace whenever you want. So I was like, well then why am I gonna, I guess if you wanted to look exactly like the pattern, then you could knit to the number of stitches in garter that is in the pattern. But I'm like, if I don't have to, then why should I? I break rules. So I did the lace section early on. That's what it looks like. I don't know if you can really see it. Boy. Okay, there we go. And I kind of jacked up the lace a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think there's ever been a lace pattern that I've ever knit perfectly though. But you know what, that's okay. So I just did sections of garter, and each section of garter I went a little bit more than the section before, but kept the number of lace repeats. Then we go again. And then it finishes off with the lace. And did I knit this on? I think I knit this on a 6. So the size is pretty good. It's at the 64, 65 inch that I like. And let's try it on. Okay. So that's what it looks like on. And then, you know, sometimes I will tie the ends. Sometimes I won't. It just kind of depends on my mood. But that's normally how I wear my shawls, something along these lines. So yeah, it's actually really squishy and lovely, and I'm glad that I waited over a year for the perfect pattern to go with that yarn, because I really wanted to showcase that yarn. I wish I could dye a red this luscious. Like, I don't know what kind of dye they're using, but I don't have it. Because if I did, I would have made this color already. But yeah, that's Numirlintu. I'll link all these patterns down below, as always. Oh, and this yarn was really nice to knit with too. Where is the tag? That's the tag. And that's the info. Yeah, so I'll definitely buy that yarn again. Anything else about that? No. Didn't bleed either, so if you're worried about bleeding, no bleeding. Oh, and the Lilli Pilli, this didn't bleed either. I did use color catchers, like just in case, but I never saw anything. So, yeah, so I was really happy about that. Because it's always a scare when you've got bright white against saturated colors. But I haven't had any problems. So I was happy about that. My last finish is Winter Solstice by Baah yarn. And this is a paid for pattern. Now, I have a story about this. So I started up here, right? And it's all garters and drop stitches. And you can kind of see where, like, as it's going down the shawl, the garter is getting thicker, right? So then I had this idea down here to kind of play around with, you could probably see it. Looked like something was going on outside. Okay, you can kind of see where, like, I stopped in the middle and I was trying to do like this eyelet thing where I thought I was going to go like this, right? Following the curve of the shawl. This is why I'm not a designer. Because not only did that not work, but when I was trying to block this, the bottom part was so tight it curved up, so I couldn't even block it flat. So yeah, just note to self, if you're going to play around with that, you know, you might want to do better math than I did. So I have figured out though that I can also wear this upside down. And it actually hangs better upside down. And you know what? Seeing as most of it just looks the same, it doesn't really matter. Now this yarn is Knit Picks Capretta, I think. It's one of their MCN bases that I absolutely loathe as far as making a garment with it. I do not recommend using this yarn to make a garment. I have not worn this out yet because we're still, you know, it's August in Tennessee. I'm not wearing a shawl outside. It's not happening yet. Maybe in a month or two. So I'll let you know how this wears. It's very comfortable. Like the yarn, it's very soft. It's nice. It just doesn't do well with agitation. So that's why I would never recommend it for a sweater. But we'll see how it works as a shawl. I used 2 balls. I was contemplating whether or not to use a 3rd ball. I decided not to. And actually, I'm glad I did that because this is a nice light shawl for fall. You know what I mean? I wouldn't wear this in the middle of winter, but with all the open drop stitch work and all that. But it's nice and small and it works for fall. So I'll be wearing it probably the end of next month. It looks like from the weather that we're actually going to get a fall for the 4th year in a row. I've been in Tennessee 18 years. We never had a fall until 4 years ago. 3 years ago. Because actually I don't know if we're going to have a fall. It just looks like we're going to have fall, autumn this year. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, this is really good for transitional weather. And because of the color, it'd be really great for fall. I don't have any more finishes. I'm done. So I'm going to take this off because it's hot, y'all. What did I knit this on? 6? I think. What would that be in millimeters? My American brain is going, 3.5, 4 millimeter? I don't know, something like that. Maybe. I'm trying. Works in progress. I already told you about the kitties. I'm working on more kitties. And I have started another tank top. I talked about that in my last vlog. The Maia tank. I'll throw a picture of me wearing the green one here. I am knitting one currently in a smaller size, slightly smaller size, in my Forest Floor colorway. And it's a DK weight. I think this one is Polworth. I know I've done it in Blueface Leicester and I've done it in Polworth. I'm pretty sure this one is Polworth. So I will bring that to you so you can see what that looks like. Now, I don't know if it's a smart thing as a yarn dyer to do this, but the only time I ever knit with anything that's my own yarn is usually if it's something that isn't consistent or sellable in some way for the shop. So, that being said, I actually have a whole series on my, I'll probably put it in an iCard up here. I have this whole series, I think it's 3 or 4 videos of me trying to recreate this color. Because it originally started out as emptying all my leftover dye. And then I got this color. So I loved it so much that I was like, oh, well, let me see if I can figure out how to make this color so that it could be something that's consistent because it was just so gorgeous. And so a lot of this that I have that's not in the shop are the 2 to 3 times that I was trying to figure out this color before I got it right. So you can see that process. Oh my God, when did I do that? That was probably 2 years ago. So you have to scroll back a little bit on my channel to try to find those videos if you're interested. So that's why I've got 3 balls here for color management, which is turning into this, which is really blowing out on the screen. It's not that bright. But there is the color variance is there. It's just not that bright. So that's why I'm really trying to make sure with the color management that it stays consistent because it is doing this striping. But what I did different from this one, from the last one, is that I made the ribbing just a little bit longer. So maybe a 1/2 inch longer, so it's 2.5 inches. The cabling starts right away. And it just kind of goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And this pattern is free. It's from 2015, I think, and it's one size. It is in English. I don't think that the designer is American, though. I think the designer might be Danish, maybe. I'm not entirely sure about that one. So you do have to do some math, but it's easy math because like 90% of the tank top is stockinette. Actually, if you're going around, it's just all knitting. So, yeah, really all you're doing is a decent gauge swatch just to get your measurements. And then that's it. Everything else is really easy peasy. So it's super, super easy to modify. It is bottom up. So really, if you're used to doing top down, your bottom up, your body is going to be the same. Just measure from, where you want your bottom of your armpit to be down to however long you want it. So like for me, if it's not, see, my tank tops are usually like 16 inches, but really I need to make them a little bit longer. So this one I'm probably going to do 17 inches. And the body on my sweaters are usually around 17 to 18 inches. So I usually just keep it the same, top down, bottom up. It's whatever. And the yarn is superwash. So usually with superwash, when I measure, I will add in my head an inch because I know it's going to block that long anyway. I'm not worried about the stretching going wide because knitting generally doesn't stretch like that unless it's ribbing. It stretches this way, up, down. So I usually add an inch so that I know that when it blocks, that's how long it's going to be. That's how I do my bottom ups. Actually, that's how I do everything with superwash, I should say. So yeah, what else? Since the needle's on here, I'm knitting this on a US 6, which is a 4mm. So that means the 7's a 4.5 or something like that. Whatever. Yeah, Polworth is my favorite yarn. A lot of people like merino. All you hear about is merino. I'm all about Polworth. Polworth is very similar to merino, but the strands or whatever are a little bit longer, which means that the strength of the yarn is a little bit better than the merino. I mean, it all really comes down to twist anyway, but that's my take on it. But I really like Polworth, and if you notice on my Ravelry projects, most of my garments are in Polworth. Not all of them, but most of them. So that's what I'm working on besides the keys. And I have a whole lot of acquisitions. So if you're not into that, I'll see you maybe. I'm not done with the podcast yet, so let me jump ahead 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I don't think I can do timestamps yet. I don't know if I have that option. I know that you get more options with the more followers you have. I don't know if I can do timestamps. I'll try. I don't know if I have that available to me. So I'll just jump ahead 5 minutes if you don't want to see acquisitions. So, I went to Smart Supply. You probably see it in my last vlog, but I'm going to show it officially here. So I've got a bunch of yarn that I found there. Ooh. So this is from Autumn and Indigo Fibers. They had this on sale for $15, and it is I got two of them, 2 skeins. This is DK weight, I think. Yep, classic DK, 100% superwash merino, 231 yards, October's end. And it's like a tan taupe color with some speckles. So the speckles are like, there's some pink in there, orange, some green. I suspect that some of this is from breaking, which I personally like. So I just add some depth to it so you can kind of see the speckling going on there. That one's got a good portion of speckling. So I got 2 of those. I found, what is this, sock yarn? Yeah, 75/25 from Sensation Souls and More. Never heard of them, but that's what it's supposed to knit up as. Got that for $3. And it is, oh boy, 60 grams. So I'm gonna guess this probably would make a pair of shorties. So I may have to do contrasting toes and heels. maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I thought this was pretty. It was $3, so got that. And then sometimes I think if they get hand-dyed yarn in without a label, then they'll just cake it up, because that's what they did here. So this was $15, and this is a high twist. I'm going to assume that this is probably a 75-25 merino nylon or an 80-20, something like that. And it's just it's a variegated black, white, purple, blue, gray. Don't know what I'm gonna do with this yet. I don't use high twist for socks because I don't like the way they feel on my feet. So I'll probably use this either for color work or for a shawl. We'll see. But yeah, got one more acquisition, and if you've been following me for a while, this will probably blow your mind. So I've been on this journey this year to not buy any patterns, right? And I've done really, really well, because I have what was overwhelming for me, and I wrote it down. I had 44 patterns or something like that. Actually, I didn't write it down. I wrote down what I have left, because, you know, half the information is there. And I knocked down that number pretty good, and, you know, so I've been doing really well with that. And I also don't like knitting socks, but I'll knit them because I am 1000% a product knitter, and they're easy to carry around whenever you're going somewhere. So it's a nice small project. So that's usually when I do my sock knitting. So I watched the last episode of Fruity Knitting, and they had this sock knitter on there who had all this colorwork socks. Now let me tell you something about socks. I don't do nothing but vanilla, because I don't got the time, the patience, nothing. Like, I'll play around with color. That's about all you're gonna get. So I'm looking at these socks. I'm like, oh, these are so pretty. Oh, these are so pretty. And I start looking, you know, if you're a Patreon, you get a discount. And I'm looking at the patterns and all that. I'm like, okay, these are really pretty, blah, blah. So you know what I did? I didn't even get a discount on this because it wasn't even part of the discount. I just looked at all the patterns that I saw, and I was like, it's actually more economical to go this route. So I bought a knitting sock book, her knitting sock book. This is Charlotte Stone. Look at that sock. I want to knit every single pattern. There's 25 patterns in here. I want to knit every single one. What happened to me? What happened to me? I don't like knitting socks, and I don't like doing anything but vanilla, and she got my number. Dude, like, for real. Look at this. Everything's charted in here, so you can use the charts for anything you want. Christmas socks. Right? I'm not going to go through all of them, but hearts. Let's see, there's snowflakes. Oh, this one was the one that Andrea liked the most. There's that. There's an egg yolk, chickens, little eggs. Oh my goodness. Like, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? So let's see, what else is there? Orange slices. Like, what happened to me? I don't even know. Like, chili peppers. Like, what is that? Like, are you serious? Are you serious right now? Coffee. Yeah. So let's see. Here's one with lavender. I'm just trying to cover up the pattern part, you know, and be respectful. Oh, here's one. This is cute. And it just has a little bit of duplicate stitch on the face, but swans. You know what else is interesting? I don't own a knitting book. This is my first knitting book that I've purchased. And it's socks. And they're not vanilla socks. Apparently I'm entering a new chapter in my life. I'm just gonna go with it. And I'm gonna have fun. And I'm gonna knit every single pair of socks that's in this book. Yes, I am. And then I'll show them to you as I do it. Oh, there's a bat one in here too. And since Halloween's coming up, that might be my first one. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Because it was adorbs. And I mean, really, you can just kind of put whatever colors you want, right? So, oh, here's one. Ice cream cones. I guess I am going through all of them, aren't I? But I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. Let me try to find it with bats. Okay, last one. How cute is that? Look, how cute is that? Oh my God. Now, the only issue that I do have is that all of these socks are knit top down, and I don't think I'm about that life. But considering I can just throw in whatever heel I want, because all the socks are designed that way, from what I understand, I can just do toe up and then reverse the chart. It's not that hard. I've done that before with a sweater. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh. If you're not into tarot, you might want to skip the next 2 minutes. I found yarn tarot. Oh my God, these are so cute. This is so cute. And it's a well thought out deck too, because it's a full size deck. You get this little hardcover book that not only tells you like the meanings of the cards, which, you know, every deck should be doing anyway. It has spreads for you. So you have your daily spread, past, present, future, clarity. Like I'm looking at my table, I have 3 other decks, and usually they just have like 1 spread in there. This one has like a whole bunch of spreads in there. That one's the week ahead, the year ahead. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was impressed by that. And then it goes into like, you know, what each card is. But, look at this. So that's the back of the deck. So, the crochet hooks are wands. The straight needles are swords. The spinning thingy here is cups. And then this is supposed to be, the pentacles are like weaving. So yeah, so here's like Knight of Cups. Yep. 4 of Swords. I'm just trying to find stuff that really shows like elements of knitting. The Magician. Oh, here's my favorite one, the King of Swords. He's knitting a long ass freaking scarf. Look at that. Look at that. He's got this long scarf with a big old yarn ball on his lap. Love this. It's so cute. Oh, which one was it that I thought was interesting? This isn't the one, but Ten of Swords. I'm trying to find it because it was a really good representation. There we go, that took a minute. Five of Wands. I thought that was an excellent representation of the Five of Wands. They're all just like an entanglement, kind of sparring with each other type of thing. Yeah, I think I'm done with the acquisitions. I'll put that away later. So I realized that it's been a while since I've talked about, back in January, I was talking about trying to get my pattern number down, and I don't know if I'm going to count this book because I guess I have to because I bought it, right? But I'm not going to count it as having bought 25 patterns. I'm just going to count that as one. So I bought one pattern this year. But I had a pattern stashed down because my number of paid for patterns was getting overwhelming. I had like 46 or something like that. I really have to look back and see. But I'm down to 33 paid for patterns, so I've knocked out at least 10, which is awesome. And then I also made a bundle on Ravelry for all the patterns that I wanted to make this year, which is really just ideas because like I don't have to stick to it, you know, and I don't ever plan to stick to it. It's just something to do on New Year's Day when you got nothing else to do. Hey, go on Ravelry and see, oh, what might be good to knit this year. If it doesn't happen, don't happen. I'm not gonna cry over it. But out of that list, I had 44 patterns for that list, and I've knit 7 of them. So that's pretty good, I think. If it was a make 9, I'd be almost done. So you can look at it that way. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about were podcasts that I've been watching because I've been wanting to talk about that more and it just kind of got away from me. So I have 4 podcasts that I've been watching that I'd like to share with you. One of them is not knitting related, but I threw that in there because she's a friend of mine and I want to shout her out. So the first one is knitting related and it's called Knitting in the Heights. And her name is Christina, and she lives in Washington Heights, I believe. I'll put a picture here. And she is an educator for music in the New York City area. She does a lot of vlogs. So if you want to see parts of New York City and, you know, all that stuff, that's your go-to right there. The next one I've been watching is Knit 1 T2. Her name is Dale. And she's out of Rhode Island, and she raises chickens. So if you want to see some of that, I just watched her Vlogmas because I was binging, so I've gone from way back to present and caught up. So she definitely does that. She might do Vlogmas again this year, maybe, I don't know. She's having a baby, so she may not, but she podcasts pretty regularly. Okay, another one I've been watching is New Scotland Knots. Her name is Allie, and I believe that she's from Nova Scotia, which would make sense. She doesn't podcast a whole lot. She's got some stuff going on, but I enjoy her podcast. It's mostly knitting. I know she's got some weaving in there. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing what do you call those weaving boards? Is that what it's called? I don't know. But you can check her out. And the one that's not knitting related, who's my friend, is Christy McKinley. She's a Reiki master, and she doesn't post a whole lot on YouTube. She does have an Instagram, and a lot of it's more inspirational type stuff. But she does in-person Reiki. She does distance Reiki. If you don't know what Reiki is, it's like a energy healing type thing where like they read your energy and try to heal different parts of your body, but they don't touch you. Like their hands are kind of like over your body. I did go to her once. I thought it was an interesting experience. So yeah, I think that is it. That's it. So hopefully next time I will have this room half done at least. Be great if I can get it all done, but you know, getting there, baby steps. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. The next couple of podcasts, actually, I don't know about August. In September, I'm thinking about doing my favorite knitwear in different segments and show those off. Just an idea that I have. But yeah. Okay, so I hope this wasn't too long. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I think that's it. So I will talk to you later, and I'm going to go see what's going on with my friend. All right. Bye.